I'm just saying, like, if the zombie apocalypse were to break out, it's not a big deal. I'm fucking ready, you know, so whatever. But yeah, Earl Sweatshirt's back with a brand new album. It's called Some Rap Songs, and it's following up 2015's I Don't Like Shit, I Don't Go Outside, which is an album I personally think is phenomenal. Adore that thing. I have devoured that thing in anticipation for this new record because it's very brief, it's very short, only 30 minutes long. It took a real long time, nearly 4 years. So here we are, new Earl Sweatshirt album is out, and it's even fucking short. The song lengths here are brief as fuck, and I was super worried going into this thing that that would be a huge crutch, or that would be a huge problem, because, you know, I like my songs to be typically fleshed out, well-developed, creative, and this and that, and I was like, okay, so like, how are you gonna work with this? Like, how is this gonna play? Like, what's going on with this short? Is Earl about to drop a series of ringtones? What's going on? And yeah, now that I've heard the record, I think it makes total sense for the album to be the way it is, considering the context it's being spun in. Some Rap Songs is not a traditional rap album at all. It's insanely one of a kind. It's more of a collage, I would say, of just really expressive and self-reflective and occasionally pretty self-destructive mini songs that all kind of depict the passing cycle of Earl's very depressed and emotionally tormented mental state. The beats on this album are all really lo-fi, rough, dusty, twitchy, fractured loops that just kind of loop for about a minute and a half, and I think that approach to the production, having them just be pretty simple loops, makes total sense given that the songs are so short. You know, if they were 3 minutes and it was just the same loop, it would just get super tiresome, and the fact that it's constantly moving from one loop to another, it's kind of all over the place, it's kind of disorganized, but that's how Earl comes off lyrically on this thing. Disorganized, confused, scared. He's really troubled, and I think the fact that nothing about this album sounds clean or focused, it all just sounds a bit just jumbled, and like the samples can just bleed together, and the mixing is just so muddy. It all feels so claustrophobic and antisocial. It doesn't feel like it's ever trying to be comfortable, and that's because Earl is not comfortable, so it makes total sense. Earl's voice is essentially never mixed in completely clearly. He always sounds like he's kind of buried in the mix to some degree, or sometimes he sounds like he's a bit distorted, or just like, I don't know, like he's just muffled a little bit, or just not in the forefront on songs like Eclipse especially. I think it's quite noticeable. I think for the most part, every case of his voice being muffled or just like not completely clear is appropriate and actually adds to how troubled he sounds. Like the beats on this thing have the musical aesthetic of like something you'd catch on like the lo-fi 24/7 hip-hop beats to study to live streams on YouTube, or maybe like from the last Milo album or some shit, but they're nowhere near as clean as that. You know, they don't sound like typical like chill hop beats or anything like that. Like they sound fucking disturbed. The time signatures are also often really strange and just like kind of off kilter, and Earl's flow is often really just slow and sluggish, his delivery very monotone and defeated and hopeless. You know, all of this sounds like it's coming together to accentuate just how bleak this record is tonally. In regards to highlights on this thing, the song Red Water I thought was really great. Love that sample, really chilling vocal sample there. Just kind of sounds like, just gives off this feeling of just like anguish. And I think the lyrics on Shattered Dreams too also do the same, like those lines about like, why did no one tell me I was bleeding, like he was just confused as to why no one was there to help him at his lowest points. And then you have those lines like, just never pinch me out this dream. Like he just wants to stay in a dream state because he just can't bear to face reality. And the song Cold Summers actually reflects this really nicely with lines like choking on the slugger, head thump on the floor, the don't muzzle my brain up, and he says like he doesn't tussle with strangers because they keep one in the chamber. Like he just avoids people. He's just so like just like facing the real world is just like the last thing he wants to do, and I think that just perfectly reflects the personality of this record as well. This album is never trying to sound comfortable or clean. It's just totally rugged and troubled. The song Nowhere to Go I thought was really powerful as well. I think the bluntness of the writing here is really strong. The line where he's just saying just like I think he's spent most of his life depressed, the only thing on my mind was death. Like he's just confronting his problems head on this track. It's just really straightforward and powerful. And those lines about how like he never felt like success ever made him believe that things would get better. Like he didn't never really go, his hope never increased due to his success. And he said like he copes with his problems by keeping his memories close by, like the memories of when times were better and simpler. He keeps them close because this is the only way he can cope with how fucked things are now. I thought that was really beautiful. And then you have songs like December 24 and The Bends, where he just kind of gets a little bit more kind of cutthroat. On the Way was cool too, that line about how like dark face on the news, clouds grey on the move, which I just kind of took that as like, you know, seeing another black victim on the news is just like the clouds are grey, just everything's still bleak on the move. move, like, as if, like, they keep saying just like, oh yeah, we're trying to fix racism. It's like, it's on the move, but the clouds are still grey, so it's like there's not really any progression being made, and that's just kind of adding to the bleak setting of this record. And then you have songs like Veins, where he has lines like, he said, like, you know, when my body's burned in the case, like, tell my mama I said thank you. Like, just kind of like his parents is definitely a recurring thing on this record, his relationship with his parents, which is also further accentuated on the track Playing Possum, which showcases two vocal samples from both his mum and his dad. And Earl's absence on this track, I think, is really powerful, because I think that just illustrates his disconnection with his family on the song. And I think the song is called Playing Possum because that's what Earl is doing on this track. He's pretending to be dead. He's playing possum. You know, that's what it means. Right? That's what playing possum means. Like, it's like feigning death, right? Like, I've seen fucking Over the Hedge. I know my shit. I kind of see this track as sort of like a memory. Like, Earl is reflecting on his parents, but he can't confront it, which is why he's not on the song. Like, and there's a point where you hear an applause on this track after something his dad said, which I think is showing, like, his dad share a connection with other people, but Earl never had that connection with his dad. And then we have the next track, Peanut, which I feel like is the aftermath after he has this memory, has this reflection. It all hits him on Peanut, where things get really harrowing and cavernous and dark, and his lines like, he's trying to catch some rays, but death is a sour taste. Like, he just can't bear to face death. It just keeps swallowing his mind at all times, and he just can't even sleep because of it. It has still shocked him, and his heart is out in the range. Like, his heart is vulnerable. He's at his most vulnerable place ever on this particular song. It's just such a fucking disturbing track. Honestly, Peanut is a really unsettling moment on this record. I think the way that the album ends off with the track Riot as well is particularly chilling. How right after we get Peanut, we get this kind of jovial, uplifting beat, but you just kind of know beneath the surface things are not as they seem. Like, it feels like this track is sort of like masking Earl's depression, or you could maybe see it as a more kind of uplifting thing, like maybe like he's gotten through the pain and he's at a better place now, or something like that. I think it could be taken either way, but yeah, overall I think it's a really interesting and powerful way to finish off the album. In regards to problems with this album, I do think the beats on this thing, whilst they are really hypnotic and psychedelic, because they're just so loopy and fractured and twitchy, I do think a lot of the time they can kind of incite the same emotional response out of me. Like, a lot of these beats kind of feel like the same beat again, just being repackaged in another kind of lo-fi rough way that just doesn't really feel like it's doing anything too different in regards to the tone it's giving off. And I think some of the beats actually recycle the same ideas as well, like Shattered Dreams, Red Water, The Bends. You just have like this stretched out, just kind of warped fucking vocal sample that just kind of gets cut off and looped and gives off this kind of weird fragmented feel. A lot of the tracks feel like they're just kind of recycling the same ideas, and the song structures as well are pretty much the same on every song. The song begins, the verse comes in, the verse ends, the song ends, and the next song begins. And it's just like, it's very disjointed. It's adding to the very sort of unorganized and confused personality of Earl on the album, sure, but it makes for even awkward listen, especially on just repeated listens, because Earl's voice is so consistently really depleted of life and monotone. It just kind of wears thin for me on repeated listens. It's just moving from one beat to another beat. This album feels more just like one giant 24-minute long song with a shitload of beat switches. The constantly shifting nature of it, I wouldn't call it gimmicky or anything like that, but it can just be a bit distracting. And speaking of distracting, I think the song As a Car is really frustrating, because I think the writing on this track is really beautiful. The sugar in the gas tank, the line about how his face looks like he just stumbled out of bed, and the line about how he said he wasn't offended at the comparison to his father. He's just really beating himself up on this track, and then at the very end you get those lines about how like he sees the ghost of who he was, as lonesome as he was, and it's like, oh, okay, he's seeing how broken he used to be and reflecting on that, but he's at a better place now. Really hopeful and beautiful way to finish off the song. I think the track's writing is gorgeous, but I really can't get over the beat on this song. I think it's a really awkward and just frustrating beat to listen to. I think all the samples come together just so horribly on this track. It makes for a really messy track, and I think the fact that Earl's voice just keeps like dipping in and out on this song, I think it's just really distracting, and I think it just kind of depletes a lot of the emotional power that the song would have had for me otherwise. And the transition from Lucy to As a Car is also very awkward in my opinion, and I think the beat on Eclipse is really grating too, that kind of like weird off-kilter time signature stuttering rhythm on that track. I think it sounds really gross. I just don't really enjoy that at all. I would hesitate to say I really loved this album, honestly. I think what it's going for, it's really unique, really different, and a really ambitious undertaking to try just making a really brief, dense, troubled album like this. And he pulled it off pretty well, but in my opinion, I'm going to go with a really strong 7 on this thing. I think it's very, very interesting. I think it's one of the most interesting and alluring hip-hop records of 2018, but I can't really say I really loved my time with it. I will definitely come back to it because it is so short. I think the replay value is there. Like, it is not easy to have an album with songs this short and for it to not feel half-baked and undeveloped and unfinished, but I think he utilized the time on this thing really effectively. But yeah, I just had my personal issues with just the way he executed the structure and just what it kind of added to the experience and how disjointed it can feel. Sometimes it just doesn't really click for me like that, and some of the beats as well just kind of rub me the wrong way, so I'm going to go with a 7. But yeah, those are my thoughts on some rap songs by Earl Sweatshirt. Let me know what you thought of the album, because this is a really polarizing and interesting record. I would love to hear what you guys think in the comments. I've avoided all reviews of this thing. I can't wait to see what everyone else has been saying, but yeah, I'm going to stop right there. Thank you for watching this review, and I'll see you on the next one.